What if I told you that one of the greatest mysteries of ancient American history was just solved? A discovery made deep in the jungles of Belize in 2025 has completely rewritten what we thought we knew about the legendary Maya civilization and their connection to a distant, powerful empire. This isn't just another old tomb. It's a time capsule that takes us back over 1,600 years, revealing a story of power, diplomacy, and a forgotten super city. For decades, the ancient Maya city of Caracol lay hidden beneath a dense canopy of trees and earth. But since 1985, archaeologists Diane and Arlen Chase have dedicated their lives to uncovering its secrets. Using groundbreaking LiDAR technology, they scanned the jungle from the air, revealing a sprawling metropolis with thousands of hidden structures, complex road networks, and sophisticated agricultural systems. Their work completely changed our view of Maya society, proving it was far more complex and organized than ever imagined. But in 2025, after nearly 40 years of digging, they found the ultimate prize, the tomb of Caracol's very first ruler, a king named Te K'ab Chaak. This discovery, hidden within the city's royal heart, the northeast Acropolis, would finally provide the missing link in a puzzle that has baffled historians for generations. The puzzle of Teotihuacan. Picture this. Around the year 331 AD, as Te K'ab Chaak takes the throne in Caracol, a colossal city is thriving nearly 1,200 kilometers away in central Mexico. This is Teotihuacan, a metropolis that might have been the largest in the Americas, home to over 100,000 people. Its gigantic pyramids of the sun and moon towered over the landscape, symbols of a dominant power whose influence stretched across Mesoamerica through trade, religion, and maybe even military might. For a long time, we knew Teotihuacan was influential, but we didn't know asterisk. How asterisk? Was it a benevolent trading partner or a conquering empire? The relationship between this powerhouse and distant Maya cities like Caracol was one of archaeology's biggest enigmas. That is, until the chases opened Te K'ab Chaak's tomb. The tomb was found at the base of a royal shrine, a place of immense political and spiritual importance. Inside, archaeologists discovered the remains of a man who was about 5'7", quite tall for his time. He had lived to an old age, so old that he had lost all of his teeth. But the real story wasn't in his bones. It was in the incredible treasures buried with him. These artifacts weren't just grave goods. They were a detailed autobiography written in stone, shell, and clay, telling us exactly who this founding king was and the world he lived in. Surrounding the king were 11 magnificent pottery vessels, each a window into his power and beliefs. One vessel shows a Maya ruler holding a spear, receiving gifts from figures depicted as gods, a clear statement of his divine right to rule. Another features Chua, the Maya god of merchants, highlighting the importance of trade and commerce to royal power. For other pots show images of bound captives, a stark reminder of his military victories and his strength as a warrior king. Even the lids of 2 vessels told a story, with handles shaped like coatimundi heads. The Maya name for this animal, Tizu, would later appear in the names of future Caracol rulers, showing that Te K'ab Chaak established traditions that lasted for generations. The wealth in this tomb was simply staggering. Jadeite, a still more precious than gold to Mesoamerican cultures, was everywhere. And here's the thing. There are no jade deposits in Belize. This means every single piece had to be imported from far away. The most spectacular item was a mosaic, jadeite, death mask, a luxury reserved for only the most powerful kings. The king's body was adorned with jade earrings and necklaces. There were also carved bone tubes and vibrant orange spondylus shells, which had to be brought all the way from the Pacific coast. Every object screamed of long-distance trade and incredible wealth. But one set of artifacts stood out above all the rest, providing the smoking gun that connected Caracol directly to the mysterious empire of Teotihuacan. Among the treasures were 4 specific pottery vessels, unlike any of the others. These were classic Teotihuacan-style, tripod cylinder vases, with their distinctive 3-leg design and stucco decoration. One even had a lid with a handle modeled to look like the head of a Teotihuacan warrior, complete with goggle eyes and a feathered headdress. This wasn't a local imitation. This was the real deal. It was a direct import from the great city in central Mexico, a diplomatic gift or a trade item that traveled over 1,000 kilometers to end up in this king's tomb. The discovery of these vessels was the direct physical evidence archaeologists had been dreaming of. It proved that in the 4th century AD, Caracol's founding king had a direct high-level relationship with the powerful elite of Teotihuacan. This changes everything. The tomb of Te K'ab Chaak is more than just a rich burial. It is a snapshot of a moment in time when two of the ancient world's greatest civilizations were deeply interconnected. It tells us that 1,600 years ago, Mesoamerica was not a collection of isolated cultures, but a vibrant, dynamic world of diplomacy, trade, and cultural exchange. It suggests that Te K'ab Chaak wasn't just a local ruler. He was a key player on an international stage, forging alliances that would shape the future of his city for centuries to come. His reign wasn't just the beginning of Caracol. It was the start of Caracol's role in a globalized ancient world. The implications of this find are enormous. It forces us to rethink the very nature of power and influence in ancient Mesoamerica. Teotihuacan's presence in Caracol wasn't just a subtle influence. It was a direct, tangible connection right at the founding of the city. Was Teotihuacan helping to install new dynasties? Was Te K'ab Chaak a client, or something else entirely? These are the questions that archaeologists are now racing to answer. This single tomb has opened up a whole new chapter in our understanding of the Maya, turning long-held assumptions on their head and painting a much more complex and fascinating picture of the ancient Americas. The story of Te K'ab Chaak is a powerful reminder that history is not a finished book. It's a living, breathing field where a single discovery can rewrite everything we thought we knew. Beneath the jungles of Belize, the echoes of ancient kings and distant empires can still be heard, thanks to the tireless work of archaeologists who refuse to let the past stay buried. The legacy of Te K'ab Chaak isn't just in the stones of Caracol, but in the new history that is now being written. For centuries, a single date has dominated our understanding of the relationship between two of ancient America's greatest civilizations, the Maya and the metropolis of Teotihuacan. That date is 378 AD, an event recorded on stone monuments known as the entrada or arrival. For decades, archaeologists have debated what this entrada truly meant. Was it a brutal military conquest, a political takeover by warriors from Teotihuacan, or was it simply Maya kings borrowing powerful symbols from a distant city to boost their own prestige? It's a mystery that has puzzled scholars for generations. But what if the story we thought we knew was just one chapter in a much longer, more complex saga? What if the connections between these two superpowers started much earlier and were far more intimate than we ever imagined? Deep in the jungles of Belize, at the ancient Maya city of Caracol, a series of astonishing discoveries are rewriting history, revealing a story of diplomacy, long-distance travel, and cultural exchange at the highest levels of society. It all begins with the tomb of a king, Te K'ab Chaak. But the true bombshell wasn't in his tomb alone. It was in two other burials, discovered nearby in a royal residential area called the Northeast Acropolis, all dating to around 350 AD. That's a full generation asterisk. Before asterisk, the famous entrada. These weren't just any burials. They were a direct link, a physical bridge to the heart of Mexico, to the mighty city of Teotihuacan. Imagine archaeologists in 2010 carefully excavating the central plaza of this royal compound. They don't find a typical Maya tomb. Instead, they find a cremation burial. This was a shock. The Maya almost always interred their dead, placing them in tombs or chambers. Cremation, that was a practice from central Mexico, a hallmark of Teotihuacan. And the contents of this cremation were even more revealing. Alongside the remains of 3 individuals were artifacts that could have only come from one place. There were 2 large, imposing knives and 6 points for an atlatl, a spear thrower. But the most stunning find was 15 pristine blades of shimmering green obsidian. This wasn't just any obsidian. It was from Pachuca, a source controlled by Teotihuacan, hundreds of miles away. This vibrant green stone was the signature of Teotihuacan's vast trade network, a calling card of its economic power. Even the pottery found with the remains screamed central Mexico, its styles completely different from the local Maya ceramics. It was like finding a Roman gladius in a Celtic chieftain's grave. The message was clear. Someone with deep connections to Teotihuacan had been laid to rest here. In the heart of a Maya royal complex, the weapon fragments found were particularly significant. A carved projectile tip from an atlatl sealed the deal. The atlatl, or spear thrower, was the iconic weapon of the Teotihuacan warrior. While the Maya used them, they weren't their primary weapon of choice. Finding it here, in a high-status burial, wasn't just a clue. It was a declaration. As archaeologist Diane Chase explains, this discovery throws a fascinating wrench into the long-standing debate. The old question was, did Teotihuacanos physically come to the Maya area, or did the Maya just borrow their symbols? The Caracol data suggests the answer is, it's way more complicated. We're not looking at a simple invasion or a case of cultural appropriation. We're seeing evidence of a deep, nuanced relationship. So, who was this person, or people, in the cremation burial? The most likely candidate is a member of Caracol's own royal family. Archaeologist Arlen Chase proposes a fascinating theory. This individual may have been a royal Maya envoy, someone who had lived at Teotihuacan, perhaps as a diplomat or ambassador. Upon their return to Caracol, they brought back not just exotic goods, but the very customs and rituals of that distant city. Think about what this implies. It suggests formal diplomatic ties between Maya kingdoms and Teotihuacan. We're talking about high-ranking nobles undertaking epic journeys across Mesoamerica to forge alliances and maintain relationships. This wasn't just about trade. It was about politics at an international level. This person wasn't just a foreigner. They were a bridge between two worlds. A Maya royal who had become cosmopolitan, adopting the ways of another great power. The story doesn't end there. A third burial, discovered in 2009 in a nearby building, adds another layer to this intricate puzzle. This tomb held the remains of a Histatus woman. Her body had been carefully covered in hematite, a rich red pigment associated with elite burials across ancient Mesoamerica. With her were 4 beautiful pottery vessels, a necklace made of precious spondylus, shell beads, fragments of a mirror, and 2 whole spondylus shells from the Pacific Ocean. Like the king's tomb and the cremation, this burial also dates to around 350 AD. What we have is a cluster of royal burials, all from the same time period, all showing evidence of vast, long-distance connections. From the green obsidian of central Mexico to the red shells of the Pacific, the rulers of Caracol were plugged into a continent-spanning network. When you put these 3 burials together, the king, the cremated diplomat, and the noble woman, a new picture of the ancient Maya world emerges. Long before the entrada of 378 atrio direito, Maya rulers like Te K'ab Chaak of Caracol were not isolated jungle kings. They were sophisticated players on a massive geopolitical stage. They were engaged in complex networks of trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. As Arlen Chase puts it, the evidence shows that the highest levels of society in both the Maya area and central Mexico were interacting directly. These initial kings weren't just hearing rumors of a great city to the west. They were actively building relationships with it. This reframes the entrada not as a beginning, but perhaps as a culmination of a long-standing, deeply intertwined relationship. The story of the Maya and Teotihuacan is not one of simple conquests, but a far more interesting tale of 2 superpowers learning from, negotiating with, and influencing one another across generations. The stones and bones of Caracol have given these ancient diplomats a voice, and the story they tell is changing everything. Ever look at an old map and wonder what it was really like to travel back then? Well, the story of the ancient city of Caracol in Belize gives us an incredible glimpse. Archaeologists made a discovery there that completely changes how we think about ancient people. It wasn't just about local trade. They were undertaking epic journeys to maintain power and relationships across vast, challenging landscapes. Imagine this. The straight-line distance between the great city of Teotihuacan in central Mexico and Caracol is about 1,200 kilometers. That's roughly the distance from Paris to Rome. Today, you could drive that in about 23 hours on modern highways. But for the ancient Maya and the people of Teotihuacan, there were no cars, no paved roads, and no GPS. Every single step was on foot, so how long would a trip like that actually take? Researchers crunched the numbers and estimated that walking from Teotihuacan to Caracol would take about 153 days, and that's assuming perfect conditions, no getting sick, no bad weather, no getting lost. In reality, a journey like this would have taken much, much longer. Travelers needed to rest, find food and water, and navigate through lands they'd never seen before. They might have had to negotiate safe passage with other groups along the way. A single round trip could easily have taken up a year of someone's life. Think about the sheer variety of landscapes they had to cross. Starting from Teotihuacan, in the high altitude valley of Mexico, they would first have to navigate through mountains and volcanic peaks. The air is thin up there, and the trails are steep. Then, they'd descend into the tropical lowlands of the Gulf Coast. Suddenly, they're dealing with intense heat, humidity, and all sorts of biting insects. The journey would continue through what are now the Mexican states of Veracruz, Tabasco, and Campeche, passing through countless other communities, both Maya and non-Maya. Each leg of this incredible trek presented its own unique set of challenges. Crossing the highlands meant dealing with altitude and rugged terrain. In the lowlands, the risk of tropical diseases was constant. Rivers were a major obstacle. They had to be waded through or crossed using dugout canoes. And then there were the dense forests, which could hide anything from dangerous wildlife to potentially hostile groups. So, anyone making this trip needed more than just physical strength. They needed an encyclopedic knowledge of the geography, serious diplomatic skills to deal with strangers, and the logistical genius to plan for supplies along the entire route. The fact that these journeys happened at all tells us just how vital the relationship with Teotihuacan was. A key piece of evidence found at Caracol was green obsidian. This special volcanic glass comes from a place called Pachuca, which is near So, this material had to be mined, brought to Teotihuacan, and then carried all the way to We're talking about a supply chain of extraordinary complexity. It wasn't a one-way street, either. In the tomb of the founding ruler of Caracol, a man named Te K'ab Chaak, archaeologists found spondylus shells. These beautiful red shells come from the Pacific Ocean, far to the west of Caracol. This shows that trade networks stretched from one side of Mesoamerica to the other, from ocean to ocean. The dynasty that Te K'ab Chaak established at Caracol was incredibly successful. It lasted for over 460 years, all the way to about 800 AD. This long-lasting stability suggests that the connections he forged with Teotihuacan were a solid foundation for his city's future. For over 15 generations, later rulers at Caracol continued to use elements of his name in their own, keeping that connection to their founder alive. And Caracol didn't just survive. It thrived. In the year 562 AD, Caracol achieved one of its greatest military victories. They defeated the mighty city of Tikal, one of the superpowers of the Maya world. This event, recorded on carved stone monuments and discovered by archaeologists in 1986, completely upended our understanding of Maya history. It proved that Caracol had become a major political and military force in its own right, a powerhouse that might have built its strength on the diplomatic foundations laid by its far-traveling founders centuries earlier. So, the next time you think about ancient history, don't just picture static pyramids. Picture the people, the envoys, traders, and adventurers who walked for months on end, connecting their world, one step at a time. Ever wonder what one of the world's largest ancient cities looked like at its peak? Today, we're journeying back in time to Teotihuacan, the awe-inspiring city of the gods that once dominated ancient Mesoamerica. To truly grasp its scale, we need to understand just how massive and influential this place really was. Imagine a sprawling metropolis in the heart of Mexico, long before the Aztecs. This was Teotihuacan. Emerging around 100 BC, it swelled to become a global powerhouse between 300 and 600 AD at its zenith. Up to 200,000 people called this city home, spread across 20 square kilometers. That made it one of the largest and most populated urban centers on the entire planet at the time. Even today, its ruins will leave you speechless. The Pyramid of the Sun, finished around 125 AD, towers over 210 feet high, making it the third largest pyramid in the world. Think about the engineering marvel this represents. Builders used a core of rubble, stabilized with massive timbers and a clever cell-like construction to prevent it from collapsing under its own immense weight. But why was it built right here? The secret might lie beneath it. A natural cave was discovered under the pyramid's center. In Mesoamerican beliefs, caves were sacred portals, gateways to the underworld and the realm of the gods. This cave may have been the very reason this monumental pyramid was constructed on this exact spot. Not far away stands the Pyramid of the Moon. While smaller, it holds an equally sacred place in the city's layout. Archaeological findings, including human remains, suggest that this pyramid was a site for solemn rituals, and yes, human sacrifices. In a stunning modern discovery in 2017, scientists used a technique called electrical resistivity tomography to peer beneath the ground without digging. They found a secret tunnel, about 33 feet deep, running from the Grand Plaza right to the pyramid. This hidden passage likely symbolized the journey into the underworld, a core concept in their spiritual world. But the most incredible discovery was yet to come. In 2003, a sinkhole opened up at the foot of another major structure, the Temple of the Plumed Serpent. This revealed a tunnel that had been sealed for nearly 1,800 years. Unlike other tunnels that had been looted long ago, this one was a pristine time capsule, offering an unprecedented glimpse into the sacred rituals of Teotihuacan. Archaeologist Sergio Gomez led the painstaking excavation. It took years of meticulous work in very difficult conditions. The team had to wear special breathing gear because of radon gas seeping through the ancient structure. Inside this 300-foot-long tunnel, they found a treasure trove of ritual offerings. There were thousands of artifacts, beautifully crafted figurines, shimmering pyrite, and something truly astonishing, pools of liquid mercury? Why mercury? This rare, silvery liquid metal was incredibly difficult to produce in the ancient world and held powerful supernatural significance. Some researchers have theorized that the combination of mercury, pyrite, and the natural geomagnetic fields in the area might have created bizarre electromagnetic effects. It's a controversial idea, but it hints that the builders of Teotihuacan possessed a deep, almost scientific knowledge of geology and physics, allowing them to engineer spaces with unique, otherworldly properties. The city's design itself was a reflection of the cosmos. Teotihuacan was laid out on a precise grid, oriented about 15.5 degrees east of true north. This specific alignment wasn't accidental. It likely corresponded to astronomical events or sacred geographical points. The main thoroughfare, now called the Avenue of the Dead, stretched 4 miles, flanked by pyramids, platforms, and the homes of the city's elite. This grid system organized the city into distinct neighborhoods, or barrios, each likely with its own specialized craft, like obsidian, tool-making, or pottery. And make no mistake, Teotihuacan wasn't just a ceremonial center. It was a bustling metropolis with a complex economy. Workshops were scattered throughout, churning out goods that were traded across Mesoamerica. From the Gulf Coast all the way to the Maya lowlands, this city was a true economic and cultural engine. Its influence felt for hundreds of miles in every direction. The apartment-like residential compounds housed large extended families, creating a vibrant, communal urban life. Yet, for all its grandeur and power, Teotihuacan is wrapped in mystery. Unlike the Maya, who left detailed hieroglyphic records of their kings and histories, the people of Teotihuacan left very few written clues. We don't even know what they called themselves or their city. While recent research hints at decoding their writing system, we still don't know the names of their rulers or how their government worked. Some scholars believe Teotihuacan was ruled not by a single king, but by a council or a group of powerful families. Others suggest that a powerful priesthood held the reins of power. Excavations of the Great Pyramids have revealed tombs of elite lords, confirming a hierarchical society, but the specifics of their leadership remain a topic of intense debate among experts. What we do know is that religion was central to life here. Their beliefs shared many elements with other Mesoamerican cultures, like the Maya. They worshipped the sun and moon, revered a feathered serpent god similar to the Maya's Kukulkan, and the jaguar was a powerful symbol of divinity and protection. This shared symbolic language helped build bridges and facilitate communication with distant cultures. Then, around 550 to 600 AD, This mighty civilization began to crumble. Key parts of the city were deliberately burned. The population plummeted. By 750 AD, the once great city of the gods was largely abandoned. Why? The theories are many. Devastating droughts, internal rebellion, disease, or invasion. Whatever the cause, the fall of Teotihuacan sent shockwaves across Mesoamerica, creating a power vacuum and forever changing the course of history in the region. The story of Teotihuacan is a powerful reminder that even the greatest civilizations can fall, leaving behind more questions than answers. It's a puzzle that archaeologists are still piecing together, one incredible discovery at a time. Imagine a civilization that had been developing for over 1,000 years. By the time the classic period dawned around 250 AD, the Maya had already perfected agriculture based on the three sisters' maize, beans, and squash. They had built their first ceremonial centers, and were already using a sophisticated system of writing and mathematics. The stage was set for something truly extraordinary. The classic period, lasting until about 900 AD, was the golden age of the Maya. The landscape, from Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula down to Guatemala and Belize, was dotted with magnificent. Each was a sovereign kingdom, ruled by a divine lord, who was seen as a living link between the people and the gods. To broadcast their power and legitimize their rule, these kings commissioned massive stone monuments we call stelae. These weren't just statues. They were historical documents carved in stone. Using a complex hieroglyphic script, they recorded everything: royal accessions, military triumphs, cosmic rituals, and family lineages, preserving their stories for eternity. And let's talk about that writing system. It was one of the most advanced in the ancient world. Forget simple pictures representing ideas. Maya writing was a full logosyllabic script, meaning it could express any word or nuance of their language, just like our own alphabet can. Scribes, who were highly respected members of society, used a combination of word signs and syllable signs to record history, astronomy, mythology, and mathematics with incredible detail. It's thanks to their work that we can now read their stories and understand their world in their own words. Their intellectual prowess didn't stop there. Maya mathematics was brilliant. They used a base 20 system, and most famously, they independently developed the concept of zero. This was a massive intellectual leap that only a few cultures in history achieved on their own. This mathematical skill was crucial for their other great passion, astronomy. Maya astronomers were masters of the celestial realm. They tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with astonishing accuracy. They could predict eclipses and charted the complex cycle of Venus, which was deeply tied to warfare and ritual. This knowledge was encoded in their multiple, interlocking calendars. They had a 365-day solar calendar for agriculture, a 260-day ritual calendar for sacred events, and the famous long count, which tracked time from a mythological creation date. Back in 3114 BCE, this deep understanding of the cosmos was physically built into their cities. The towering temple pyramids weren't just impressive structures. They were sacred, man-made mountains that connected the earthly realm with the heavens. Sprawling royal palaces served as both homes for the rulers and the administrative hearts of the cities. And then there were the ball courts, where a sacred, high-stakes game was played. It was a deeply religious and political event, a reenactment of cosmic battles that could, for the losers, end in sacrifice. Connecting all these important spaces were raised stone causeways, called sakbib, the highways of the Maya world, sometimes even linking entire cities across the jungle. Now, let's zoom in on one of the most powerful of these cities, Caracol, in modern-day Belize. Founded in 331 AD by a ruler named Te K'ab Chaak, Caracol would grow to become a sprawling metropolis. For a long time, its true size was hidden by the jungle, but thanks to modern LiDAR technology, which can see through the forest canopy, archaeologists Diane and Arlen Chase made a stunning discovery. At its peak, Caracol wasn't a small ceremonial center. It was a massive urban landscape covering nearly 200 square kilometers. That's larger than modern-day Paris. Its population is estimated to have been over 100,000 people, far more than anyone had imagined. The LiDAR scans revealed a city of incredible complexity, with extensive road networks, thousands of agricultural terraces, and hundreds of reservoirs. This decentralized infrastructure is fascinating. The Chase's son, Adrian, studied the water system and found that access to water wasn't controlled by the elites in the city center. Instead, hundreds of reservoirs were distributed throughout the residential areas. This suggests a very different kind of urban planning, one that provided essential resources to a wide swath of the population, not just the powerful. This discovery changed our understanding of Maya society. It wasn't a simple two-tiered system of rich rulers and poor farmers. The architecture at Caracol shows a wide range of social statuses. There were grand, multi-room palaces for the wealthy, but also many well-built, mid-tier homes. Even those in simpler dwellings had access to public works like reservoirs, and were part of the city's bustling economy. This points to a complex society with a middle class, specialized professions, and even chances for social mobility. So, how did so many people live? Caracol's economy was a powerhouse. The thousands of agricultural terraces built into the hillsides were an engineering marvel. They prevented erosion and allowed for intensive farming, producing massive surpluses of maize, beans, squash, and valuable crops like cacao and cotton. The city was also a hub for craft production, with specialists making beautiful pottery, textiles, and tools, and traders connected Caracol to the wider Mesoamerican world, bringing in exotic goods and exporting local products. Caracol's history is a dramatic story of shifting power. Early in its history, artifacts found in Te K'ab Chaak's tomb suggest a connection to the distant, mighty city of Teotihuacan in central Mexico. Caracol may have started as a subordinate ally, but by the 6th century, it had become a military force to be reckoned with. The turning point came in 562 AD. In a shocking upset, Caracol's army defeated the superpower of the time, the mighty city of Tikal. This victory sent ripples across the Maya world. Tikal, considered the dominant force in the region, entered a period of decline. Caracol, on the other hand, seized the opportunity. Following this victory, the city entered its golden age, expanding its influence and enjoying a long period of prosperity, dominating the southern Maya lowlands for over a century. The story of Caracol is a powerful reminder that history is never static, and that even the greatest empires can be challenged. The Maya world was a dynamic tapestry of art, science, and political intrigue, from their revolutionary mathematics to their sprawling, sustainable cities. The Maya of the classic period left a legacy that continues to captivate and inspire us today. Imagine a date that sends shockwaves through an entire civilization, a day that rewrites history. For the ancient Maya, that day was January 31st, 378 AD. This wasn't just another day on their complex calendar. It was the day of the entrada, or arrival, an event so monumental it reshaped the political landscape of the Maya world forever. For decades, the story seemed clear, centered on the great city of Tico, in modern-day Guatemala. On that fateful day, a mysterious figure named K'ab Chaak, or Fireborn, arrived. The very same day, Tico's king Teotihuacan-style died. A polite way of saying he was probably killed. A new dynasty, with clear ties to the distant, powerful city of Teotihuacan in central Mexico, was installed. The new child king, Yax Nunayin. It was even depicted in Teotihuacan-style warrior gear. It looked like a classic foreign conquest. K'ab Chaak seemed to be an agent of a Teotihuacan ruler known as Spurthrower Owl, installing a new network of puppet kings across the Maya lowlands. But is that the whole story? Recent discoveries are forcing us to look at this pivotal moment in a completely new light. What if I told you the story didn't start with a violent takeover? What if the relationship between these two great civilizations was far more complex and began much earlier? Deep in the jungles of Belize, at the Maya city of Caracol, archaeologists have unearthed something extraordinary. They found burials dating to around 350 AD. Almost 30 years before the famous entrada. These weren't just any burials. One was a cremation, a practice rare for the Maya, but common in It was filled with artifacts styled after those from the great central Mexican metropolis. This changes everything. It suggests that highly-veiled diplomatic contact, not just trade, was happening between Maya elites and Teotihuacan long before the supposed invasion of Tikal. It seems some Maya nobles may have even lived in Teotihuacan, adopting their customs and forging deep personal connections. The entrada of 378 AD wasn't the beginning of the relationship. It was a dramatic escalation of a connection that had been brewing for at least a generation. So, what really happened? The evidence points to several intriguing possibilities. Perhaps what started as friendly diplomacy slowly evolved, with Teotihuacan eventually deciding to exert more direct control. Or maybe the Maya themselves were the architects of this change. Imagine a landscape of competing city-states, a Game of Thrones set in the tropical jungle. In this scenario, ambitious Maya rulers might have actively sought an alliance with the superpower of the day, Teotihuacan, to gain a strategic advantage over their rivals. This puts the events at Tikal in a new perspective. Was it a foreign invasion, or was it an internal coup? A power grab by one Maya faction that was cleverly backed by Teotihuacan. Instead of a single, unified empire, Teotihuacan might have had different types of relationships with different Maya cities. While some, like Tikal, experienced direct intervention, others, like Caracol, may have maintained more independent diplomatic ties. The Maya weren't just passive victims. They were savvy players on a continental stage. The aftermath of the entrada is undeniable. Across the Maya lowlands, a wave of Teotihuacan influence swept through. You can see it in their architecture, with the distinctive tablero slope-10 panel style appearing on Maya pyramids. You can see it in their pottery, with new forms and designs, and you can definitely see it in their art. Maya kings began portraying themselves with warrior symbols, the atlatl, or spear thrower, distinctive shields, and imagery of goggle-eyed war serpents. It was the ultimate power statement, linking themselves to the most dominant military and cultural force in Mesoamerica at the time. But here's the most fascinating part. The Maya never lost their identity. They were not simply conquered and assimilated. This was a cultural conversation, not a monologue. They cherry-picked the elements they wanted from Teotihuacan culture while holding onto the core of what made them Maya. They kept their own sophisticated hieroglyphic writing system, never adopting a Teotihuacan script. Their religion incorporated some new deities, but the fundamental Maya pantheon remained. And their political system, centered on divine kingship, stayed distinctly Maya. This wasn't cultural surrender. It was creative adaptation. The Maya absorbed foreign ideas and symbols and masterfully wove them into their own cultural fabric to serve their own purposes. They used the prestige of Teotihuacan to legitimize their rule and intimidate their enemies. The new evidence from Caracol confirms this. Early Maya rulers like Te K'ab Chaak were not pawns in Teotihuacan's game. They were active, sophisticated political actors, sending their own envoys, forging alliances, and navigating a complex international world. They were masters of diplomacy and strategy, using every tool at their disposal to increase their own power and prestige. The story of the entrada is a powerful reminder that history is rarely as simple as it seems. It's a dynamic story of ambition, alliance, and the creative fusion of cultures. It shows us that the Maya were not an isolated civilization, but key players in a vast, interconnected Mesoamerican world. They didn't just receive influence. They adapted it and made it their own, creating a unique and enduring legacy that continues to fascinate us to this day.